And hello, good people of the internet. It is Tommy Kelly once again from adventuresinwoo-woo.com and the Tommy Kelly podcast, which you can find at adventuresinwoo-woo.com. And in this episode, of podcast, yes, I'm going to talk a bit about people who have influenced me to become the person I am, or have informed my outlook on things from a kind of a spiritual perspective. And spiritual is a hokey word, and it kind of conjures images of, oh, my spiritual influences. And I don't like it as a word, but I don't know what's a better word for it. They've helped me, or they've influenced me in my outlook on life and how I approach life and how I overall see life and stuff like that. So not mundane influences, and I don't mean mundane in the boring, but it's not like a teacher. My English teacher, Mr. Jennings at school, was an awful big influence on me. Really great. I loved him and all that, but didn't speak to anything spiritual whatsoever. He was the person who, when I read out of a book or whatever, I learned from him. If I'm any good at that, it's what I learned from listening to him and how he did it, because he was very good at that. And I found that very impressive. But anyway, enough of him. Sadly, he died a few years ago, and I didn't know until later, so I never got to go to his funeral. But that is neither here nor there. So I'm going to talk about some of my influences. There's about 4 or 5, and then there's a load of names afterwards. Notable runner-ups. I don't think they're runner-ups, but other notable mentions. That's what I'm trying to say. At the minute in my life, I am really enjoying using my new camera, which you might have seen from the YouTube videos that the quality is slightly gone up, and today I got a new clip-on microphone, which works really well. The microphone I did get, which was about, I think, €80, something like that, and was listed for $150, maybe $106, so it was like a good price. And it is like, you plug it onto the top camera. It wasn't great. It wasn't much better than the built-in microphone that came with the camera, which was depressing, because I wanted it to do the video stuff or whatever. So when that didn't work, I ended up getting this clip-on mic, which was like €10 including postage, and I come with all these adapters and like a bag and all that. So it was like really worth the money, whatever. I'm assuming that the other mic I got will come in useful if I ever do outdoor stuff, because it has that protector thing that we used to call a condom in sound engineering, but I'm sure it has an actual technical name. The big fluffy cushiony thing that goes around microphones that you see, and that's to stop wind hitting on the center of the microphone. But anyway, neither here nor there. I'm really enjoying the camera stuff and getting into that big time by doing loads of tutorials, watching loads of YouTube videos and that sort of thing. So that's been going well. I also set up my new Ganesha altar yesterday, which involved me just basically moving all my Cerebus comics off one shelf and putting them upstairs, and then cleaning the shelf and putting it up. I put a photo up on the Woo-Woo site, on the Facebook page, if you want to have a look. And I did that because I kind of had a number of Ganesha statues, or altars, if you want, around the house. There was one up in the gym room that we do yoga in, and has all the gym equipment, the weights and all that stuff. And then there was one in the bedroom. And then there was one in the living room, which is still there. I left there as kind of a big silver statue. And then there was another Ganesh statue outside, kind of looking at the door, guarding the door, that I have now surrounded with loads of plants and stuff. It was where Puka, my cat, her bed was. So rather than turning it into a shrine to her or whatever, I cleaned out all her stuff. I made it into a place that's full of life and full of plants, and has Ganesh statue, and has other statues, has this Buddha statue and stuff as well. So it's nice. It's kind of my little Zen garden or whatever. But what I found with having all the Ganeshas all around the house is that I kind of lost touch with that energy or that feeling or whatever, and I wanted to kind of bring that back and get a bit more into touch, and maybe do some more chanting and that kind of thing, because Ganesha was a big, it's not influence, but it was a big energy that was around for a long while when I was trying to break out of things and get past obstacles and all those things that Ganesha represents, that I used also in the road opener servant in the 40 Servants. So that feels good to have that back. And so I've just hung around nothing. So that's pretty good. Speaking of the gym thing, I've been running every day for the last while, jogging. And I'm actually getting worse at it. I was getting up to about 5k. I did 5k 3 days in a row, 1 week, and was going, oh, here it is. That was my goal, to get to that. And then I was sick, and I kind of had a chest thing, which kind of slowed me down. And then I stopped jogging and all exercise when I went to Bucharest that time. So there was like 5, maybe 6 days where I didn't do anything. Apart from, I walked miles and miles and miles when I was in Bucharest. So there was still plenty of exercise. But there was no actual, jogging or whatever. So when I got back to jogging, I was struggling to get to a mile. And then even to get it up to a mile and a half. Today I did 2 miles, but I had to slow down and do a bit of a walk. So that's a bit crap, because I've been building up to that. But because the way we were doing the yoga, I was doing it with my wife, and we were doing it at lunchtime, and her kind of schedule has changed, because she has a preschool, and that thing was over for the summer, and it broke for summer. So her thing has changed, and so the times that we could get together was different. So we kind of said, we'll do our own kind of yoga thing. And I kind of concentrated on the running. And by the time I was finished the running, I was just, I was sweating, and I didn't want to do any yoga. And I was just doing 10 minutes of yoga a day. And then I just kind of stopped doing yoga, saying, I'll do it, 2 times a week, and I'll do running 3 times. But I end up just doing running every day. So I've stopped yoga, and I miss it, and I want to get back. And my wife actually emailed me earlier on and says she was saying the same, that maybe we should try doing it in the evenings together or something. So hopefully that works out. Also, my diet has gone a bit to hell at the minute, in a sense purposely, because it's leading up to my birthday, the 40th, and I knew I wasn't going to hit my target. I wanted to be 13 stone by my 40th. I knew it was kind of an unrealistic target, but that was what I was aiming for. And in my last weigh-in, I didn't lose any weight at all. And if you want to read about that, there's a whole blog on it. So I started just kind of not counting my calories for a while. And it's just the last week or so, just week and a half. And I'll go straight back into it after my birthday, which my birthday is Tuesday. So Wednesday, I'll be straight back into the strict 1,300 calories a day, all that stuff. But it's amazing how quickly you just fall back into your old routine of what you would eat and what you like to eat, and you forget, like, the problem is that it's sticking to 1,300 calories or whatever is not going to be sustainable for the rest of my life, because I'm constantly hungry. I'm never satisfied. Like the 6 months that I was really gunning for this, and I lost a lot of weight, 40 pounds or whatever, but I was constantly dissatisfied and always thinking about food, and it was a willpower thing not to eat the food. So I can't do that for the rest of my life. And then when I just go, okay, just eat what you want, but try to be healthy, I know I'm eating like probably 2,000, 3,000 calories, and like I've put on 4 pound in the last 2 weeks, 4 or 5 pound. So I have to work out what I'm going to do when I lose this weight at the end, because do I spend the rest of my life just not being fulfilled by food, or I don't know. That's something I have to work on. I was explaining to a friend of mine recently, and he was saying that when because he's a skinny guy, fit guy, and he was I was saying that the amount of food you eat, you always feel satisfied and full at the end of it. And he goes, yeah. And he says, yeah. And that turns out to be the correct amount of calories for you to be the weight you're at. Whereas I don't get that. I don't get the satisfied feeling until I've overeaten, in a sense of until I've eaten too many calories for me to, sustain a weight. So by the time I'm satisfied, I've overeaten. And I know there's people saying, oh, you should wait 20 minutes and then eat again. Yeah, but naturally skinny people aren't doing that. They're not thinking about food. They're satisfied by the food they eat. So it probably is a case that I will have to spend the rest of my life just being massively unsatisfied and hungry all the time to sustain a low weight. Which doesn't sound fun, but it's something I have to work out on and something to think. And I'm also starting to really miss coffee. I had a couple of cups of coffee when I was in Bucharest, and I have to say it was lovely, but it probably did add to my stress, anxiety thing, and it's hard to know. But I'm still on the decaf, but I am beginning to miss it. But it could be also because I'm falling into old habits and all that, because I haven't been eating right and haven't been doing my yoga, and my meditation's gone to shit as well. I haven't really been meditating. I've been barely getting 10 minutes in 4 times a week, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. Everything's getting a bit, God, I don't know, a bit out of hand, bit disordered or whatever, but hopefully now that'll all pull back after my birthday, because that's what's in my head. But anyway, that's what's going on at the moment for me, and I've just hit my microphone, sorry about that. And yeah, so all in all, kind of good, but just a bit lack of discipline, lack of direction, and feeling a bit all over the place. And being sick as well. I was sick, which I don't like. I'm very seldom sick, but I've been sick twice this year. Briefly sick, but still. Anyway, so let's move on to the next section, where I will talk about my spiritual influences. So yeah, when I was trying to put this list together, it was kind of going to be 5, because 5 people like lists of 5. They're the most popular kind of lists of all the lists, is the list of 5, apart from the list of 10, which is equally popular. But I couldn't really get to 5. I could get to 4 main influences, and then a handful of loads of people. So the handful of loads of people will count as my 5th. So it is somewhat a list of 5 if you're really counting, but there's more than 5 people in it. So the very first person who I want to talk about is Stuart Wilde, and that will not be a shock to most of you who have listened to this podcast or listened to some episodes of it, because I talk a lot about him. Stuart Wilde would definitely be the rock or the basis on which everything, I think, rests on. And I find if I go too far out of things, I have to come. It's like my touching stone. I have to come back to kind of and center myself. I come back, say, reading his books or listening to him or thinking of those type things. Now, I certainly do not agree with everything Stuart Wilde says, and the last couple of books and years of his life, I'm not into it all. And he got very dark, very negative, and almost the polar opposite of what he was at the beginning. But even some of the stuff at the beginning, I'm not totally gelling with as well. He has a lot of kind of things of don't help people because they're going through their own thing, and who are you to judge them to say the thing? But also, if they ask you, you should help them. So there's a weirdness, not weirdness. He is like, don't send, because it was like the 80s, like, so don't send bags of rice to the Ethiopians, or don't feel sorry for the Ethiopians, or kind of this coming back against Live Aid or whatever, those type of things. Is who are you to judge what they're going through, which is a bit harsh, because I've gone through some hard times, and I know people have gone through hard times, and even if it is some sort of soul discovery or soul contract or some agreement you've made to go through these things, the personality that is me didn't agree to that. Tommy Kelly never agreed to go through these hardships or these experiences. Maybe there's some bigger part of Tommy Kelly, but me personally. So to say, don't judge or help other people going through things because you don't know what spiritual journey they're on, is maybe they are, but maybe they don't even know that. So, and it's nice to help people. So anyway, I've spoke about that before. There is an element of it that, don't feel guilty about things you can't change as well, which anyway, I'm going off on a tangent as I usually do here. But what I like about Stuart Wilde, and what attracts me to his teachings and all that, is that he is funny, and there's humor, and he doesn't take it serious. And there's a lot of his lectures are, you laugh, but it's not kind of, he's not telling jokes really, like, right? It's just, don't take this all so seriously. And one of his sins, if there was a sin, is this thing of serious, that people become so serious about life and serious about spirituality or serious about magic or serious about whatever it is. And it's like almost a disease in a sense of seriousness where, it's just because, just chill out. And so what I really enjoy that he's saying, it's like kind of there's a trickster spirit to him as well, in that, let's mess up some stuff. And, he talks about going into shops and messing around with salesmen and, saying that you're going to pay them, $10 for a big TV and stuff like that. There's all these kind of things, but it's all mostly, don't be serious about this. the world is serious enough without you adding to it with your seriousness. And people kind of equate seriousness with being, serious about it. Like, you can be, if you're not serious, then you're not taking it seriously enough. You know what I mean? You're not giving it the gravitas that life deserves. You have to take it serious because it is serious. Life is serious business. And it's only serious business because we've decided it's serious business. But there should be a joy, playfulness, lightness, and all that. And I'm attracted to that because I am quite serious, and I find myself being quite serious. And I don't want to be. I don't want to be as uptight or as stressed or as pressured or worried and all that. And I like his free spirit, his fringe dwelling free spirit, or warrior sage, as he calls it. I also like that his brand of spirituality comes with that whole thing of it has to be useful. Like, there's no point in having all these things or thinking about all these things if ultimately it's no good to your day-to-day life. Like, and he has the example of, that's great, but how do I haul this spiritual idea down to the bank, or how do I make some money out of this, or whatever? And it's not just about making money, but it's the point being that you have to do something where you have to live your life. They're not these ideals or lofty goals or, like these technical ideas or whatever, or these theories or whatever that are maybe useless to you in your day-to-day life. Like, I found a lot of like Alice Bailey stuff, like, while it's interesting in a kind of technical thing, it doesn't inform me or teach me or help me in any way how to live my life. And it almost by getting that technical, it kind of makes the day-to-day life that we have to, I was going to say endure, that we have to enjoy, not count, because it's not the real world. And, it's don't take your life so seriously, or it's not the real thing, and I don't like that. It is the real thing. It's the only thing we know. It's what we're here to experience. And we're here for, even if there is higher things or whatever we choose to believe or whatever, this is what we're dealing with day to day. So your spirituality should inform that and help that. I'm saying inform an awful lot for some reason. I obviously heard someone saying that. It should add to you. It should add and increase your life, not kind of make it seem less relevant, if that makes sense. So I won't go on anymore with Sir Oil because I've a million times, but even at the minute I've been back listening to his Infinite Self audiobook, just because I find I've been just stretching myself out too far and going too far into other people's ideas and kind of hanging out and say, like, I was doing the Grimoire course and a couple of other courses and kind of hanging out with other people, and you kind of forget that I don't have to believe this. This isn't necessarily true, and just bring it back to, where I am, having learned more, and so I have a better perspective on the same ideas by going out. But I was going too far and too out into other people's ideas. So even to this day, I'm still a fan of the old Stuart Wilde. The next one is probably an interesting one because he's not actually a spiritual writer or anything. In fact, he's an atheist. And he's a stand-up comedian, and it's Eddie Izzard. And he had a huge influence on my outlook in life. Again, because of this not taking things serious, by seeing the funny side of life. But still, he's a very intelligent man and very good insights in his comedy and his stage work or whatever. And I really enjoyed his outlook, and it's something I kind of tried to steal or model in the NLP sense or whatever. And his humor has made me. I learned an awful lot of my personal humor from him. And I remember when I was 21 at the time, and I'd moved to Monaghan, which is a town. It's about an hour away from where I was living, and I moved over there on my own. I was working in a record shop. I moved over to be the manager of the record shop. It didn't last too long, about 5 or 6 months or something. I had a tremendous falling out with the owners. But that whole time, and it was kind of it was an exciting time moving away and being on your own, and a little adventure there. But it was quite dark because it was winter, and I had just gone through a huge kind of breakup with both a girlfriend and a band I was in, and I had gone through a depressing time, and I had moved out to the country on my own with my friend Dave, which wasn't in hindsight a really good move because I had completely separated myself from everyone. And so anyway, I ended up moving to Monaghan on my own. And every day when I came home from work, I would put on one of Eddie Izzard's videos, and that would be my safe place. That was where I came home, and that was my friend that I watched and things. So I know most of them by heart, whatever. And it was how I kind of dealt with things, whatever, was by having this little safe space of going home and watching a video, which, sounds a bit weird, but it's probably the same thing as go home and listen to, favorite band or something like that. But yeah, so I've stolen lots of his humor and lots of things, and it's funny. I'm getting into, or my wife's getting in a bit more into him now because we're listening to his audiobook of his biography, which is wonderful. It's wonderful. It's really worth your time. And she says she can totally see where lots of my humor has come from. So I've stolen loads from. So he has, while not necessarily taught me anything about, I don't know, God, spirit, whatever these things, or magic, certainly not. He's definitely informed me, there you go. He's definitely, I've stolen things and become very much a personality or thing that I am today because of him. So he gets in there. He's a big influence. The next one, was the odd one because I don't know what I think of him now, but at the time, when I was young, he was a huge influence and probably is a massive influence even now because I came across him very early and I learned about him, and I should tell you who he is. His name is Tony Robbins. You might have heard of him. When I was about 16, 17, my uncle gave me the tape series of Personal Power, and I went through it. And I just thought it was wonderful, thought it was amazing. I really liked his energy. Again, he was fun, but it was, he could be serious too. And, but I learned so much from that. And a lot of those things kind of stuck in me forever, and my outlook changed from having done that course or that tape series, whatever it is. Now, I don't think it was great in that had I totally followed it to the letter, I definitely would have ended up worse than I was, because there was like one thing in it goes, you have to go and do something now, something big, take massive action and, solve this thing. And my old thing I could think of, well, I could ring that girl from school that I fancy and ask her out or something. And that, had I done that, would have destroyed my life absolutely at school, because there's no way she was into me. I was a complete idiot and quiet, nerdy type weirdo at school, and that I would have been the laughing stock of the school and all that. So quite delighted I didn't have the nerve to do it at the time. And that's kind of what is my issue with Tony Robbins now, in that it's all well and good doing something in the moment, but taking massive action and doing all things like that thing in the film, I'm Not Your Guru, where he makes your one break up with her boyfriend, and in like 3 weeks, I think, like when she gets home after the 3 days, she gets back with him. So it's pointless. It's it's shock. And it means nothing, and it can only cause damage. And Mike Cernovich points out about the whole take massive action and all. He says that's not how it works anyway. Is you take loads of little actions towards, like if you want to build a website, take massive action. Sounds like, oh, let's go out and get a loan for $1,000 and pay some guy to do this website. That's massive action. Or you can spend 3 or 4 months learning how to use WordPress, buying your own hosting, do all that. So taking loads of small actions rather than some big massive action. But Tony Robbins has a lot of good things to say as well. He did a show a few years ago on Oprah's TV show, and that, I think, really killed him for me, in that he took people who were struggling or whatever and give them new jobs and tried to help them out and stuff. And there was one guy, and it's a white guy, because one of the episodes was about a black guy, and so I'm not just pointing out he's a white guy, but he was working in a restaurant, and he was like spitting, and he was really horrible, and he was fucking up, and he was doing all these things, whatever. And he ended up still getting, Tony got him sorted like the $150,000 job or something. Then there was this black guy, used to be a basketball player, but had some injury or something, so he couldn't play anymore. And he got him a job like collecting trash and just kind of as if, well, that's the only level you're at. And he said this was a professional basketball player, and it was kind of when there was this ceremony at the end where he was, everyone was getting things, and this guy, this kind of scumbag guy who would, who was just this big thing where he spat out in the street in front of all customers and all this stuff, and he goes, and you get your $100,000 job, yeah, and then the black guy came out, and then you get a regular, less than minimum wage job collecting bins, yeah, good for you, and he was like, you could see he was coming out, and he went, hey, yeah, I have a job, wow. And the other people that got record contracts and all this stuff. And it was like, even the woman who got the record contract, it was like halfway through 20 hours, you have to give up this dream of wanting to be a rock star or country star, whatever it was, and you have to concentrate on your family. And then 20 minutes later, going back and going, but I've got you this recording contract and all that. It was just awful. And I was going, what is this about? It just seemed all over the place and kind of seemed a bit racist, but I don't know, that maybe I'm reading too much into that or something. I'd be interested to see if someone else has an opinion on that, or if someone has seen that or came across it. The I'm a Guru film thing, it's a bit odd, it's a bit cultish, he seems a bit intense. He also doesn't seem to realize simple things. He had mercury poisoning because all he did was eat fish, and he goes, they don't tell you that there's mercury in fish. He goes, I don't eat fish, I've never eaten fish, I haven't eaten fish in 25 years. I know there's mercury in fish, and if you eat too much fish, there's a thing of, who doesn't know that? But having said all that, I've learned an awful lot from Tony Robbins, and a lot of the modelling thing and even that glamour magic stuff that I've talked about in my blog probably came from him, from the modelling thing, but I added an energetic component to it. And I did Personal Power again last year, and it is good. It will get you out of things. But he comes with a huge caveat, be aware of there's definitely something under the surface that is suspect there, and I don't know what it is, but can be helpful once you know about it. So number 4 is Mr. Grant Morrison. Seeing that Disinfo lecture where he gets up and he screams changed my life, but not in that it slowly changed my life. It wasn't like that day I've seen that and then everything changed, but it led to paths that definitely did change my life, in that it got me into chaos magic. It taught me about sigils. It's the first time I heard anyone talk about Robert Anton Wilson, so I took that, breadcrumb trail and went down a whole path of Robert Anton Wilson for a while. I got to runesoup.com because of that. I got into Pete Carroll, Phil Hines' work, all of that. Got to Alan Chapman from all that. So it got to CMG from that. Got to where, if I never see that video, I'm not here doing this podcast. So, it's a huge thing, but it's not that next day I started a podcast or anything, it's whatever, 6-7 years later. I think I didn't see it when it came out, obviously. I think it's 1999, 2000, something like that. I've seen it within the last 10 years. So, yeah, but definitely the knock-on effect, the chaos effect of it definitely did change my life. So it did change my life. I'm definitely more of a fan of Grant Morrison as a person than I am of his writing. I think Invisibles is great. I don't think it's brilliant. It's probably suffers from everyone having stolen from it at this point. But it's definitely, if you haven't read it, you have to read it because it's brilliant. But all his other stuff, I'm not that gone. And I didn't really like his Batman stuff. Joe the Barbarian was okay, but kind of just okay. I thought Nameless was just okay. And what else I still have a ton of his stuff on my shelf, but that Talking with Gods video film really, I seen how his approach to life really influenced me and really touched me, and I tried to copy that so much so that Them is a direct influence from Grant Morrison's hypersigil ideas, and how he approaches magic and how he talks about magic and how his passion. I'm more interested in him. There's a great conversation, if you ever have some time, between Kevin Smith and Grant Morrison about the Dark Knight Returns book and his insights into that and how he thinks about it's about just talking about Batman, but rather than magic. But how he thinks about that is more interesting than how he writes about Batman, and how he talks about magic and how he describes magic and expresses himself is more interesting to me than actually the Invisible, say, or his essays, that pop magic thing, or that thing he wrote recently in Heavy Metal or whatever. I'm more interested in him talking about it as a person. So I'd love to meet him someday and have a chat and talk about it. But I think he's kind of gone off magic a bit. I don't know. It depends on what interview you read. But yeah, fell down the rabbit hole with him, and that was great. So he's definitely, but him as a person, him as a personality, rather than his work necessarily. Not to say his stuff is shit. His stuff is very good. It's just I'm more interested in him as a person than I am of his writing. Now, the others section, which is the number 5, and other people who have been a big influence. Like I said, I found Robert Anton Wilson from that Grant Morrison because he talks about him, and then obviously I've seen because the Disinfo, the lectures. Robert Anton Wilson does one as well, so that's somewhere. I don't think it's on YouTube. It's somewhere though. Excuse me, I have wind. So Robert Anton Wilson, yeah. There was old Alan Watts, huge influence. Really like him. I've reading Alan Watts since I'm about 18, 19. And then when I eventually, found his audios on the internet, whatever, it was great. His voice is amazing. You could listen to him all day, every day. He's just wonderful. If you haven't checked out Alan Watts, you really should. Brad Warner, who is a Sen guy, he used to be, or still is, like a bass player in Zero Defects punk band, and he was also into making monster movies in Japan and lived in Japan for a while, and that's where he learned Sen. Well, he learned a bit of Sen before he went, but he became a Sen priest when he was in Japan. I really like him. He does his book Hardcore Zen, and he has Sit Down, Shut Up, Zen dipped in, was it Zen dipped in chocolate wrapped in silk, something like that. And There Is No God and He's Always With You. Great books, and his blog is quite good as well. He's also doing lots of videos now, so he's worth checking out if you're into kind of Zen Buddhist kind of thing. He's very hardcore Zen. Sounds like it's hardcore, but it's just the hardcore is from the music thing, hardcore punk rather than hardcore Zen. But good, worth checking out. Ken Wilber, interesting. Brad Warner hates Ken Wilber, but I like him. And he has interest in he doesn't believe in magic or whatever, but would have kind of spiritual thinks that something is going on more than just what it is. But he has it's a very rational kind of intellectual approach to spirituality, and very putting things in boxes and on scales, but interesting and useful and worth checking out if you want to check him out. So we also have obviously Gordon White from Rune Soup. Huge fan of Gordon White. Really, really good stuff. You should check him out. I'm sure you have. Alan Chapman and Duncan Barford's The Baptist Head website, which is gone, as is the books, but you can still get them on PDF and archive.com, which is The Blood of the Saints, The Urn, and The Desert of Roses, which are brilliant books. And again, practical. Here's how we did it. Here's what we went, what we go about. Alan Chapman's book himself, that he wrote himself, Advanced Magic for Beginners, is a brilliant first book for anyone who wants to get into chaos magic or magic in general. It can be summed up in do it, try it. If it works, do more of it. If it doesn't, change it or drop it. Another one would be Anton LaVey and the Satanic Bible, which kind of people have, I don't know, interesting thoughts with, either dismiss it or think he's a charlatan, which of course he is, or just think, oh, does he believe in, he's really a Christian if he believes in Satan and all that stuff. Doesn't matter to me. I've being grown up Catholic and all that, found an awful lot of the restrictions placed on from a Christian thing removed by thinking from a sort of satanic point of view. And I liked him as a person from what I know of him. Like, I mean, I'm sure he wasn't a particularly great person by some reports. Depends on whose reports you want to believe. Mightn't have been all that he's cracked up to. And he was obviously mental. mental in the Irish sense. He was obviously a bit not right in the head, but like in a fun kind of, like wacky way rather than actually having mental issues. Yeah, I've time from now. I'm not a Satanist, and I don't want to hang out with Satanists or anything kind of thing. I don't not want to hang out with Satanists either. I've nothing against Satanists, but it's just yeah, I almost feel that kind of like a shame because I like him, but no, I like him. I think he had some interesting things to say. Again, don't buy all of it. He's some weird things to say. His whole thing about the dolls and that kind of thing is it's a bit much. But he definitely had some fair points. One of them that if you get the success from magic, always say that it was magic or else it's taken away from you. And I think that's brilliant. That's that's very important. I said it a lot. So I'm sure I am leaving someone out. And my apologies for whoever that is. It feels like I am. Looking at my books here. Nothing's really jumping out at me there. So I'll leave it at that. So that's plenty of people who have influenced me. Probably the most surprising one being Eddie Izzard, and I can't really justify it in how it's a spiritual influence other than it made me the person I am. Music wise, I suppose you could have similar things. Like I was a huge fan of Jane's Addiction and Dave Navarro, and the whole time I was in a band, I kind of wanted to be Dave Navarro. So there's that kind of whole. That's been a huge influence for me, but it doesn't feel spiritual. Again, not don't like the word in the way Eddie Izzard does, or even any of the Beatles. Beatles a huge fan of the Beatles. Like George Harrison would be a huge influence spiritually. The chanting, the Hare Krishnas, all that kind of stuff, really big. But maybe I actually should have included him. He should have been number 5, George Harrison. In retrospect, number 5 is George Harrison. But yeah, sort of probably other ones like that as well that I'm forgetting. So, but it is like it is what it is. Like there's these. It's like I notice that sometimes you forget bands that you're into or whatever from like music, and you go back and go, oh well, I can't believe I forgot that I was huge into Depeche Mode or something, and they were big influence me musically in that. So I'm sure I'm doing something like that. But yeah, so we had Stuart Wilde, Eddie Izzard, Tony Robbins, Grant Morrison. Gonna go with George Harrison for number 5, and then all the others. So there's a roundup of people who have influenced me spiritually. And that's it for another episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you didn't skip through too much of it. If you're listening to this on anywhere other than SoundCloud, know that SoundCloud had this nice sweet feature where you can make a comment at the particular time that you're listening to. So if I say something and you make a comment, it's linked to that time in the podcast, which is quite nice. If you're listening to all those other places like iTunes or podcasts, whatever, and you're happy enough doing that, then work away. Who am I to say come over to SoundCloud and have a listen? You can go to adventuresandwoohoo.com and check out the blog. That's kind of the hub for everything. It has the blogs, it has the Magic Primer series, it has the links to the videos, to the podcasts, to the Weight Loss for the Soul series, all of those things, lots of blog things there. All the 40 Servants information is there as well. Or you can go straight to the 40 Servants or 40servants.com, and that will bring you straight to all the thing you could ever want about the 40 Servants, ever want to know about the 40 Servants. Still updating all the relevant pages on Adventures in Woo with the new descriptions from the Grimoire, but that'll take some time because it involves having to reformat the page and do some new graphics and stuff like that. So I'm just taking my time with that. The audiobook for the Grimoire is going well. If you want to hear that, you can become a level 4 patron on Patreon, or be any of the levels on Patreon if you want to know more about the 40 Shadows, which is the new thing I'm working on. I mean, there's other, I was going to say prizes, but not prizes. There's other rewards as well. You can get all my comics, you can get PDFs of the Grimoire, you can, there's Q&A videos, you get podcasts and everything days before all that kind of stuff. Go to tommykelly.com if you want to know more about that. That's Tommie. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I don't use it enough. I'm on Tumblr, tumblr.adventuresmovie.com, adventuresmovie.tumblr.com, whatever way that works. I'm everywhere, you know, so if you have some sort of social media that you enjoy, I'm probably there and you can find me on it. So until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful week, and may the road rise to meet you, as we are supposed to say in Ireland, but I'm not sure I've ever heard it actually been said other than as we're supposed to say in Ireland. But may the road rise to meet you, and may you have a fantastic, fantastic week, and may the sun shine on you, and may all the greatness and happiness and joy and prosperity in the world be yours, and may you be well. Until next time.